Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. In today's video, we'll be talking about what exactly is perlite, and in this video, I'll give you a quick tip on how you can make optimum use of this product. Because a lot of times I have seen a lot of people use perlite in their soil, but a lot of times it goes wasted, and you'll get to know how. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can make the best use of this product without wasting much. Now guys, perlite is a natural occurring substance which is used as media not only for succulent potting mix but for other soils as well, for other plants as well. So when this product is obtained from nature, it doesn't look anything like this. It looks quite different. Now I'm not sure exactly how it tends to look, but this is the final product. So what they do is they manufacture this by firing it up in the furnace. Now the heat is so much that the perlite starts to pop like popcorn, and that is how they tend to look like. Now they are very light in nature. The density is very light. I'm going to experiment and show it to you how light it is. And usually you can see it here as well. There is so much of wind and you can see it's already starting to move. And if there is really strong wind, all of the perlite can fly off. Another important thing, whenever you are working with perlite, I would always advise you to wear a mask, because the powder, if inhaled, can cause a lot of irritation in throat as well as in the lungs. So you have to be extremely careful. Always wear a mask when you're handling perlite. Now guys, over here, let me quickly show you how light perlite is. Now I have put some perlite in this glass and I'm going to add some water, and you will be able to see how light perlite is. You can see over here, it has already started to float, and you're not going to see anything that is going to be at the bottom of this glass. Everything, every single particle of perlite tends to float. That is the reason why this is used in succulent soil mix or even in other potting mixes, because what happens is it's very light in nature. It tends to make your potting mix very light, especially if you have hanging planters. This tends to work out really well. So apart from making your potting mix very light, if perlite is present beneath the soil, it also helps the roots to breathe, because it tends to create a lot of space. It doesn't let the soil get compact. So ideally, perlite is best if it is within the soil and not on the surface of the soil. Now in my next experiment, you will be able to see what exactly I'm talking about. Now here I have two pots. One is full with soil, another one is half with soil. So let's say that you have very less perlite and you have a lot of plants to pot. You can go with this method. Now what you can do is, once you have your potting mix filled half in the pot, then just put an inch of maybe 1 inch of perlite, and then you can lock this perlite in the soil. So once I have completely filled this with perlite, like 1 inch, I'm then going to put more soil on it. So in this way, what's going to happen is the perlite is going to get locked beneath the soil, and that's exactly where usually our roots are sitting. So in this way, you will be able to make optimum use of perlite without letting the perlite come to the surface. Now as you can see, I have completely filled this pot with soil. The perlite is all beneath the soil, and it's going to be exactly where the roots are going to be sitting. And in another soil mix, this is the second pot. This is what we usually tend to do. We randomly tend to add perlite to the soil. A lot of us tend to do this. Even I have done this earlier. So now let me quickly mix this. Let's say that you were not aware about perlite earlier, how to use it, and you just randomly added it into the soil. So now this is how usually it tends to look, and you can also notice the perlite flying off from the pot, because this is usually what happens. It's very light in nature. The density of perlite is very less. So now I will quickly water the first pot wherein a perlite is locked inside the soil, and you can see the soil is well draining. You do not see any perlite that comes to the surface. You can see everything is locked. So as you can see, the water is draining out very well from the pot, which is the most important thing for our succulents. At the same time, the perlite has not come to the surface. So all of our perlite is locked under the soil. Let's get back to the second pot. Now usually we tend to water our succulents, and you can see all of the perlite has floated to the surface. Now I know you might say that the perlite was already on the surface, so while watering it will definitely float. Yes, let us do another watering. This time let us do a little deep watering. Let us water the soil once again and see what happens, because a lot of the perlite was under the soil. Now you can see the amount of perlite that has floated to the surface with the second watering. Now this is usually what I have seen with a lot of people whenever they tend to show me their succulents. I've always seen the large amount of perlite that tends to keep sitting on the surface of the soil. The soil is definitely well draining, but you can see almost 80% of the perlite has come to the surface. Now the main reason of adding perlite to the soil was to make the soil airy, loose, porous. But over here, when 80% of our perlite is sitting on the surface, it is of no use. And now when the soil will dry, this excess perlite that you see on the surface of the pot, when there is strong wind, all of this perlite is going to fly from your pot and there will be nothing left. So after spending so much of money on perlite, and then you're going to basically waste all of your perlite, because trust me guys, whenever there is going to be strong wind, right now the soil is wet, that is why the perlite is still sitting in the pot, but once the perlite dries, it is going to fly off from the pot. So basically we have wasted all of the perlite. The expensive product that we have purchased is all gone. So it's very important guys, try to lock your perlite. I know a lot of times when we buy potting mix online, the ready-made ones, it's already mixed, but you might have also noticed that they do not use a lot of perlite, because perlite is expensive. They tend to use a very little amount of perlite in soil. But when we tend to buy it separately, we tend to make best use of it. We try to use a lot of perlite, but then we end up with something like this. So if you want to make the best use of perlite, ensure you put it at the base of the pot, or you can put it in the mid level, not the base, but at the mid level where your roots tend to sit. You can use your perlite there. Now in the next video, I'm going to show you, you can even try this method. If you want, you can even add randomly. There is nothing wrong or right about it. But if you want to make optimum use, this is the best way you can use perlite. Now here I'll show you another example as well. Let's say that you have very little perlite. You have run out of perlite. You do not want to spend any more money. So what you can do is go for this method wherein you can use very little perlite. In this method, we will use perlite only in the root area. So now you have to do is just slightly moisten the soil so that it can easily make a cavity in the soil like this. Now this space is enough. Depending upon how big the roots are, you'll have to make the cavity bigger. Now this cavity is good enough for the roots, for the succulent that I have. Now once the cavity has been made in the soil, the next thing what we're going to do is we're going to pour some perlite in this and fill it up. Now this is where our succulent roots are going to be sitting, because this is where usually the succulents will start to put out the new roots, because this is where we are going to be adding the succulent. Now guys, this is just an example. It completely depends upon you how you want to place your succulent. I have just placed it quite high in this pot, but it completely depends how you want to do it. But you can follow this method and make good use of perlite. You do not need to use a lot of perlite, and this perlite will help the roots grow. It will help the roots breathe. You can make the cavity bigger as per the size of the succulent, and once you are done, once you are sure that the roots are inside, you can then cover it with soil completely. Now guys, the next step, please do not water the succulent immediately after repotting. Wait at least for 2 to 3 days. This is just an example. I want to show you how the perlite is locked within the soil after planting the succulent. You can see I have watered it, and you will be able to see there is no trace of perlite on the surface of the soil. The perlite is exactly where it is supposed to belong, in the root area, letting the roots grow and breathe properly. So the water has started to drain out of the pot, which indicates that perlite also helps in good drainage. And now you know that the perlite is successfully locked in the soil. It is around the root area, which is going to help the roots breathe. It is not going to make the root area very compact, because as you can see, perlite has these granules that tend to keep this area around the roots very loose. Now you can see all of the perlite is locked, nothing is on the surface, which means that we are able to make optimum use of this product. This is another pot wherein it was randomly, this perlite was randomly scattered on the soil, and you can see all of the perlite is on the surface. There is another important thing that I wanted to mention, because this was asked by someone: can we grow succulents only in perlite, nothing else? Now the answer is no, you cannot grow succulents only in perlite. For that matter, you cannot grow succulents only in pumice as well. There has to be some kind of other media. Perlite pumice is an addition that we add to the soil in order to make the soil loose, porous, well draining. But unfortunately, you cannot grow succulents only in perlite. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.